And, of course, they're talking about, I believe it was the officer by the name of Gray who was shot. And he will never be the same. I believe I saw his attorney, A. Dwight Pettit, on television last night talking about, again, the shooting of, again, Officer Gray, a University of Maryland police officer, I believe. And he was shot by William Curran, who fired his service weapon at the University of Maryland school. Now, normally, these types of accidents or incidents will get your police commissioner fired. Notice Batts himself hasn't even been disciplined. How is he going to discipline William Curran? And he himself has not been disciplined by the mayor for taking city police officers off of the premises where they have training and then take them to Owings Mills, which used to be the Rosewood School. Take them to a complex that used to be the Rosewood School that your same governor is running around here talking about firearm safety and the Firearm Safety Act and the importance of having counseling and having services for those that have mental illnesses. Well, he shut down a whole institution that deal with those that deal with mental illnesses and are treated at an institution in Rosewood or the Walter P. Carter Center. So it's hypocrisy from your governor. But again, on this issue of, I believe his name was Raymond Gray, Officer Raymond Gray, Batts was never disciplined. And whoever decided to take the Baltimore City police officer trainees out there, they were never disciplined. So this police department is still in disarray. It's still in disarray. But as the old saying goes, the fish rots not from the tail down, but from the head down, man. So we clearly are looking at Batts, who's in over his head. Your mayor won't discipline him as well. But in other cities, know that the police commissioner would have been fired by now, man. No questions asked. And I don't care how much you get these fools keep talking about, well, he's only been on the job for 6 months. You can be on the job for 2 months. You know you do not take no trainees or the training class outside of the city limits to no Owings Mills, man. You don't do that. That's the same as with their fire department when they took their firefight. They took those little fire cadets out of out there off Pulaski Highway, up there on 40 West or 40 East rather, where they have their training. They decided to take them to use somebody's house, which they claim was abandoned, and set several fires in the house. Now, they got an academy where they're supposed to practice that. But they took somebody's house and used their house as they have been doing without getting the owner's permission, which means they were trespassing. Then they lit or ignited several fires in the house. And the young lady, I believe her name was Cadet Wilson, Rachel Wilson, lost her life. And to this day, I don't think her family's been compensated. You had Senator Barbara Mikulski and others walking around here talking about they were going to look out for that young lady's family. But to this day, I don't think that family's been compensated. But yet, every time they have these memorials, every time you see these firefighters, they can talk about the white firefighters who lost their lives, but you rarely hear them bring up Rachel Wilson's name. And even with the sister who is ascended, I believe her name is Stokes, to that position of being maybe the second in command or one of the commanders now, the highest ranking position ever for a black woman in the fire department, which we should be proud of. But we should never forget what happened to that cadet, Rachel Wilson, because you would have those that try to say they lowered the standard for her when they've lowered the standard for so many in this city in terms of getting into that fire department and lowered the qualifications. That's why many of them will never go outside and try to join Anne Arundel County, New York, Philadelphia, because we get their rejects. We don't get the best, we get the less. And then many of them don't live in the city. They'll come and stay here in the city during the 7-day shift. Then they leave and go back to Philadelphia, go back to New York, because you don't have a mayor strong enough to press them and stress them to say, if you're going to give in this city, you're going to have to live in this city. If you're going to make a job off the city, then you're going to have to move here with your mob in the city. With your mob in the city, since this is mob town. But they continue to allow them to be cash mobs and flash mobs toward the citizens in the city of Baltimore. That's an indictment. And don't forget, as I'm talking about cash mobs, this upcoming Monday, as I call Councilman Stokes' office, don't forget this upcoming Monday, City Council will be having, I believe, or at least the City Council meeting in which he's going to introduce the resolution around this issue of, again, the Harbor Point project. So make sure you go down, support Councilman Stokes, and call him at 410-396-4811, just to say thank you for saying to Harbor Point that you cannot get something for nothing, man. You cannot use the citizens that live in East Baltimore to wax rich, to wax coal rich. I mean, just dirty money. How much is enough, man? How much is enough is what we got to be asking Michael Beatty, asking John Paderak, and asking the other developers in the city. And speaking of that, I don't know if you saw this article in the city paper, but there is an article in this week's city paper that I think you definitely want to read. This article is Tax Dodgers Report. It's on page 12 of the city paper. Why should city taxpayers subsidize a billionaire developer building office space for huge corporations and high-end housing, protesters ask, while basic needs go unmet and ordinary taxpayers get socked with ever-increasing fees, man. So they give at least a top 10 list here. They give a top 10 or top 11 list of tax dodgers checking up on developers who get city tax breaks. Now, time may not allow me to get into this today, but the top 10 they give is Harborview, a key highway, which is Harborview. Also, Frankfurt Estates, which is Struver's Brothers. Struver's Brothers, where have we heard that name before? Where have we heard that name, Bill Struver's, who's come back and got him a new name, but the game is still the same, man. Also, Belvedere Square, which was built by Struver Brothers as well. Number 4 is Clipper Mill. Number 5 is the Locust Point Key Highway Extension. Number 6 was Mondawmin Mall. Number 7 is the Charles Village Streetscape. That was also Struver's Brothers as well. Number 8 is the West Point Waterfront, which is Pat Turner. Number 9 is Westport Gateway South, the Rosemount community. Not that we've seen anything come from that. Number 10 is Harbor Point. Again, and number 11 is the Hilton Baltimore Convention Center Hotel, which is Martin O'Malley. If we can just put his name on it. We can just put his name on it and his claim on it. Martin O'Malley, Sheila Dixon, Stephanie Rollins, and, of course, dishonorable mention has to go to M.J. Brody. M.J. Brody, who, of course, Manash Jacob, which is his real, Russian name, Russian Jewish name again. Manash Jacob, who, again, bought the city of Baltimore the idea of investing into hotel owning, and that's because these swindlers throughout the years have come in and gotten tips and pilots for their hotels, and normally they don't pay after they get the enormous amount of money and tips and pilots that usually after about 10 years, 15 years, what they have done is walked away from the project and have left the bill on the citizens in the city of Baltimore. So this is, again, in the latest city paper. It is the city paper, volume 37, number 25, June 19th to the 26th. And front page of the city paper is the multiple personalities of Baltimore fashion. But here on page 12 is talking about tax dodgers, again, and checking up on the developers who get city tax breaks. So I would encourage you to definitely read it. And as they talk about the TIFs, though, I gave you 1 through 11, and then pilots, which is payment in lieu of taxes. And we'll hopefully get an opportunity this afternoon when I'm joined by my guests and when I'm joined again by Councilman Stokes to kind of slow it down and slow walk it so that you will really be educated on what is a TIF, which is called tax increment financing, and what is a pilot. So you don't think I'm talking about somebody that works at the airport, but we slow it down so that you really know what is a pilot, which stands for payment in lieu of taxes, and who are they making their payments to? And when we talk about the TIFs, what is a tax increment financing as well? But as it relates to the pilots here, number 1 is the Marriott Residence Inn. Number 2 is the Fitzgerald, built by the Marriott Residence Inn is Hugo Hotels and Hospitality Management. The Fitzgerald is built by the Bazzuto Group. Number 3 is Lockwood Place, built by A&R, which is Adams and Rogers. Now, of course, Mr. Willie Adams has passed on, but Theo Rogers is still here, and he works closely with David Brown. Also, not David Brown that works for Councilman Stokes, not that David Brown. We have number 4, the Baltimore Marriott Waterfront Hotel, which is owned by H&S Properties, which is John Paderakis. Let's keep going. Number 5 is Spinnaker Bay, H&S Properties. But I thought it was the Bazzuto Group. We'll have to look into that. Number 5 was Spinnaker Bay. Number 6 is Legg Mason, which is also that property in East Baltimore, Legg Mason, which received, I think it was $33 million in tips or pilots to move from their location downtown over to Harbor East. And they clearly are now part of H&S Properties. The Laureate, which used to be, what was that called? The Sylvan Learning Center. It's now called, I think, Sylvan Laureate or Edu something they got. They change the names all the time. But I think one of the ladies that's on the school board, Miss Francois, I think she still works for them. But the Laureate, which is owned by H&S Properties. Number 8 is the Redwood Towers, which is A&R Development, which is Adams and Rogers again. The Center Point, which is the Dawson Company and the Bank of America Development Corporation. Now, you got to check that Bank of America. They got a lot of development corporations around this town, like that project I told you about, Jackie Cornish. Jackie Cornish was representing for them Sheila Dixon's girl, one of Sheila Dixon's BFFs, Jackie Cornish, and how they got over 280 homes in the Druid Park community. At a time they're telling you that they don't have dollar homes in the city of Baltimore. They have dollar homes, just not for you. But it was the city paper that wrote a few years ago about Jackie Cornish, who lives in Woodlawn, Maryland on her 6 acres of land, but she was fronting for the Bank of America subsidiary, and the Board of Estimates voted on it, and it only took less than 5 minutes for the Board of Estimates to vote to give them 280 homes. And this is when the Board of Estimates was headed up by Sheila Dixon, Mayor Martin O'Malley, and the others that were on the Board of Estimates at that time. And those are the kind of criminal activities to me. When the special prosecutor has to come in, when the feds have to come in, when they're giving away city property for pennies, when then they don't have to pay no taxes on this city property like this. So, again, number 10 was the Zenith. Oh, where's we heard that name before? The Zenith, which sits there, I believe, on Lombard and Packer Street. And, of course, that was Brian Marsh. You do remember Brian Marsh, Phi Beta perpetrator, Dark Gable for Martin O'Malley, and his group or corporation called, I think it was called, what's it called? I'll get the name. I think it was called Legacy. We'll have to look into it, but I think it was called Legacy. And number 11 is Camden Court, which is RIJ Development. And number 12 is St. James Place, Wendy Blair and Derek McDaniels. Number 13 is the Hippodrome Theater, the Francis Merrick Performing Arts Center, which they claim the city of Baltimore owns that. Now, they continue to get bailouts for them. I think it was last year they got like $40 million. But they continue to get subsidized by the citizens of Baltimore when our theaters have gone. What is Arena Play? Is Arena Player still open? We're going to have to ask that question. Is Arena Play? Get Sugar Bear on the phone, man, for some of you Sugar Bears that's listening, and Sugar Boys and Sugar Toys, and make a lot of sugar noise that hang out with him at Club Buns. And Club Buns, now, I done driven past Club Buns. Now, if there was a facility that needed that needed to get some money, man, Club Buns, and they still got the trash chute hanging out the building, man. Y'all know what I'm saying is true. Club Buns down there. Sit there by the old post office on Lexington Street off of Green Street. Those of you that's part of the LGBT community that be hanging out in Club Buns. Y'all need to ask them white members of the LGBT, please get y'all some money so that y'all can get an extreme makeover on Club Buns down there, man. You do need that. Or maybe you need to move Club Buns into Mount Vernon. You think they'll let y'all move over there? I don't think so. I don't think so. And you know so. They just want to use you as a prop when they want to use you. But other than that, they don't want you in terms of in no large mass. They want you there like they like the spice on their food. Just a dash. Just a dash. So let me go to this quick musical break, man. Then we're going to come back in, as I said, and I'll give you a few minutes of this message that I wanted to get from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan before I'm joined by my guests that I wanted to have join me on the State of the City. And so we'll give you maybe about 10, 15 minutes of this message that I wanted to give you from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, again, entitled, The Time and What Must Be Done. So listen with open ears, open mind, open heart, open spirit, and then I'm going to come back in and be joined shortly live in person and in living color by the Honorable Delegate, Joe P. Carter. So listen to this message, and we'll be right back with more of the State of the City.
Help us. Heaven, help us. Heaven, help us. Heaven, help the kid in Somalia with no food to eat. In Heaven help that homeless man with no shoes and swollen feet. And heaven help